Since you forgot to remind me to record, we'll do this real quick. Today we're going to talk about negations, inverses, and contrapositives. So if you're at home catching up here, you might want to pause because we're moving along. And the first thing we talked about was negation. A negation changes the truth value of a statement. It's best to use the word not. If we negate the following statement, the grass is wet, we would say the grass is not wet. And the reason we just explained for using the word not is a situation like this. If the statement is x is less than 5, someone might want to say the negation of that would be x is greater than 5. But Nikki, you pointed out what's happening, or not Nikki, sorry, Jacob pointed out that the number 5 is in neither set. And so this does not totally negate this statement here. So the best way to use negation is to use the word not. So we would say x is not less than 5 would be the negation of that. Okay? Now, we are caught up. The inverse negates the hypothesis and the conclusion of a conditional. The inverse negates a hypothesis and the conclusion of a conditional. If we go back to the old conditional we started with, if the light switch is up, then the light is on. What would our converse of that be? If the light is on, then the light switch is up. Very good. That's the converse. That's what we've already learned that, right? We should be getting pretty good at that. What does the converse do with our hypothesis and conclusion? What's it do?
Yes, I have a question. What was the one we had right now right after the grass is not wet? I missed that.
Okay, just a minute, we'll go back. Answer my question, please. What happens to the hypothesis and the conclusion in the converse? They switch. So we had the switch is up, we had the light is on, and we switch places with them. The light is on, then the switch is up. Okay? So right after the grass is wet, we start talking about inverse. Now, the inverse then. What did it say the inverse does? Negates the hypothesis and the conclusion of a conditional. What's the hypothesis in this original conditional here? So how would I negate that? It's not up. What's the conclusion here? The light is on. So how do I negate that? The light is not on. So if we put them together, we say if the switch is not up, then the light is not on. Now we could get into, I heard somebody say the light is off. We could get into gray area there. Sometimes the power is like in a brownout for whatever reason. The power coming to the light switch is very, very low, and the lights don't come on, but they aren't off either. They're kind of right in the middle there. And so there are reasons sometimes that even with electricity, it's not as clear as either on or off. There's some gray areas. So still best to use the word not. Paul?
Like my grandma's apartment, one of her light switches was kind of hooked in upside down. So when it's up, it's off. When it's down, it's on.
Yeah. That's an example of darn. Not quite sure what's going on there. That's an example of whether it's true or not really the gray area it's talking about here. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I know. Okay, here we have, excuse me, here we have a new conditional. Remember, this is chapter 5, lesson 4. It's usually quite a bit later in the year when I'm talking about this. And we're excited about potential storms. So we have here, if tomorrow's storm drops 10 inches of snow, then we will not have school. Okay? We can talk about whether that's true or not, really doesn't matter for what we're going to use it for. I think the reality is, in the 29 years I've been coming here in the wintertime, we've never had a storm drop 10 inches and still had school the next day. So I think this is a pretty true statement. Excuse me. But it's possible we could come up with a counterexample. But anyway, if tomorrow's storm drops 10 inches of snow, then we will not have school. What would the converse of that say, Kaylee?
If you don't have school tomorrow, the storm drops 10 inches.
Then the storm dropped 10 inches. Okay, I like that. If we'll not have school tomorrow, then the storm will drop 10 inches of snow. She used a little different tense, didn't she? Past tense instead of present tense or future tense or whatever the English language for that is, but that's okay. I'll be very flexible with how you reword that part of it. The important thing is, what's important in the first one here is that storm drops 10 inches and then having school is the conclusion. And so the converse will switch that around to the having schools first and dropping 10 inches of snow second. Okay? So that would be our converse. I'd like you to take a minute. I'm going to pause this. I want you to talk in your group about what you think the inverse is. Go ahead. Okay, we're back here. Neat, Nick? What'd your group say? What's the inverse of this statement?
Okay, we said if the storm doesn't drop 10 inches, we will have school.
If the storm doesn't drop 10 inches of snow, then we will have school?
Yeah.
Very good. If the storm... Not sure. Oh. If tomorrow's... There we go. I can't read my own statement. If tomorrow's storm does not drop 10 inches of snow, then we will have school. Okay? Now, if we said that first one was true, could we stretch our imagination far enough to say this statement here is actually true? If we get 10 inches, if all of a sudden tonight it snowed 10 inches, we'd not have school tomorrow? Okay? Would you agree with that? Okay? Excuse me. Now, listen. So we said this is a true statement. Let's come down here to this inverse. If tomorrow's storm does not drop 10 inches of snow, then we will have school. Do you agree with that? So if we don't get 10 inches of snow tonight, we will have school tomorrow.
Yep.
Not necessarily. Why? What if it snows 9 inches? Good point. That's not 10, is it? Okay, Nikki.
Icy roads. Instead of
What if we have icy roads? Okay? All right. So what you're saying is there's a lot of examples in which we don't get 10 inches of snow that we still might not have school tomorrow, right? Okay? It's possible that the power went out tonight. It's possible something happened with the water system and all of a sudden we didn't have clean water here tomorrow. Okay? So there's a lot of possibilities. Paul?
I was going to say, well, if something happens directly at school today, that affects us not having school tomorrow.
There you go. That could happen also. Something could happen in school today that directly affects tomorrow. So the point I want to get at, help me remember, what did we say about the converse and a conditional? Just because a conditional is true doesn't mean a converse is true. Very good, Emily. What do you think the statement about inverses is going to be then? The what? The same thing. I agree with you, Amelia. We're saying that just because this conditional is true doesn't make the converse or the inverse true. So you cannot judge the truth value of the converse or the inverse based on what the original conditional was. You have to look at these separately and judge them based on what they say. Okay? Any confusion on that? All right, very good. Let's move on. What did we say we were going to talk about today? Contrapositives. What else? Negations and inverses. What have we talked about so far? Inverses and negations. What do you think's left? The contrapositive. The contrapositive takes the converse of the inverse or the inverse of the converse. You can think of it either way. It's going to get you to the right answer. Okay? You can look at it either way. It will get you to the right answer. So we're going to stick with our storm story here. It's our story and we're sticking to it. Oh yeah, that's already copied down for you. If tomorrow's storm drops 10 inches of snow, then we will not have school. We said the converse was, if we will not have school, then tomorrow's storm will drop 10 inches of snow. The inverse said, if tomorrow's storm does not drop 10 inches of snow, then we will have school tomorrow. So what do you think the contrapositive is going to say? If we have school tomorrow, then the storm did not drop 10 inches. If we do have school tomorrow, then the storm didn't drop 10 inches of snow. Very good. Nice job, Lauren. If we do have school, then the storm didn't drop 10 inches of snow. You pause while you copy that down and we'll talk for a minute. All right. So, we agreed the conditional was true. If tomorrow's storm drops 10 inches of snow, then we will not have school. We said the inverse was not true. The converse was not true. What do you think about the contrapositive? If we do have school tomorrow, then the storm didn't drop 10 inches of snow. You think that's true or not? You do? Nikki?
No.
No?
Depending on the school.
Depending on the school.
I question
Okay, hold on, slow down. So do you agree that our original condition is true?
Yeah.
If the storm drops 10 inches, we'll not have school. Can we agree that's a true statement? Nick? Nick? Do you agree? Yeah. Okay, so what is this saying? If we do have school, if tomorrow you have to get up, get on the bus, and get to school, then what didn't happen last night? We didn't get 10 inches of snow, did we? Now, some of you are saying, well, down south, 2 inches of snow shuts them down. I agree. But that's not the scenario. To judge whether this is true or not, this has to be true. We have to have school tomorrow. If we have school tomorrow, then what happened or didn't happen? Well, we didn't get 10 inches of snow, did we? Because we said, had we gotten 10 inches of snow, then we would not have school, right? Since we're in school, we didn't get 10 inches of snow. The conditional and its contrapositive are either, what do you think? Yeah, but a little stronger than that. You're right on. They're either both true or they're both false. If we just simply said they're either true or false, then that kind of implies one could be true and the other one could be false. And that's not the case. In a conditional and its contrapositive, either both of them are true or both of them are false. They have to have the same truth value. Okay? A conditional and its contrapositive have to have the same truth value. Let's add that on here. A conditional and its contrapositive have to have the same truth value. If one is true, the other one's true. If one is false, the other one's false. You don't have to rewrite it. You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to think about it. If the conditional is true, its contrapositive is true. If a conditional is false, its contrapositive is false. That's not true with an inverse or a converse, but that's true with a contrapositive. Equivalent statements have the same truth value. If 5x minus 7 is equal to 12, if that's true, then 5x is equal to 19. That's true. So what we're saying is a contrapositive and its conditional are equivalent statements. That's the point of this. We're saying they're equivalent statements. Okay? All right. I do not have this copied off for you yet. After just hold on.